The divorce papers were tucked behind Kieran's passport in his desk drawer. I wasn't snooping, not really. I'd only opened the drawer to return his fountain pen, the expensive one he'd left on the kitchen counter that morning. The one he used to sign important documents. Documents like the marriage contract we'd both signed 2 years ago. Documents like the divorce papers I was staring at now. My hands trembled as I lifted the crisp legal documents into the light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows of our penthouse. What a joke. This place had never been ours. The minimalist furniture, the expensive art on the walls, the cold marble floors. None of it had my touch. I was just a temporary fixture, like everything else Kieran acquired for business purposes. Petition for dissolution of marriage, the header read. Filed date, exactly 1 month from now. The day our contract expired. I should have expected this. I had expected this. So why did my chest feel like someone had reached inside and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating? The nausea hit me suddenly, violently. I barely made it to the bathroom before I was retching into the toilet, my body shaking with more than just morning sickness. Because that's what this was, morning sickness. The same morning sickness I'd been hiding for 3 weeks now. Ever since I'd noticed my scent blockers weren't working properly and food smells made me want to die. I sat back against the cool bathroom tile, pressing my palm against my still flat stomach. 6 weeks pregnant. The test I'd taken at a clinic across town had confirmed it yesterday. 6 weeks since that night. The night Kieran's rut had broken through his suppressants like a dam bursting. I could still remember every detail. How he'd stumbled home early from a business trip, his usual iron control shattered. How his pheromones had flooded our apartment, so thick and desperate that my own Omega instincts had overridden every logical thought. How he'd pressed me against the wall of his bedroom, the room I'd never been invited into before, and growled my name like it was a prayer. Ash, he'd whispered against my neck, his voice rough and broken. God, Ash, you smell like heaven. Like home. Stay with me. Please stay. I'd convinced myself it was just the rut talking. Alphas said things during their ruts, things they didn't mean. It was biology, nothing more. The same biology that had led us to this arrangement in the first place. But my traitorous heart had recorded every word, every touch, every moment of tenderness. And now my body had created something permanent from that temporary madness. I pulled myself up from the bathroom floor, rinsed my mouth, and stared at my reflection. I looked the same dark hair falling into my eyes, same pale skin, same delicate features that made strangers assume I was weak. They didn't know about the steel I'd forged in my spine over the past 2 years of living with a man who looked at me like a business asset. My phone buzzed. A message from Kieran, working late. Don't wait up. I laughed bitterly. When did I ever wait up? He'd made it clear from day one that our arrangement was professional. Separate bedrooms. Separate lives. I was there to provide pheromones to stabilize his dangerous rut cycles. A medical necessity for an alpha whose condition could kill him if left untreated. He was there to provide the money that had saved my family's pharmaceutical company from bankruptcy. A fair trade. A business deal. Except somewhere along the way, I'd broken the cardinal rule. I'd fallen in love with my husband. 2 years ago, I'd been desperate. I could still remember sitting in the sterile office of Frost Industries, my father's bankruptcy papers clutched in my sweating hands. The secretary had looked at me with pity when I'd arrived, a 24-year-old Omega in a too-big suit, trying to save a failing company. Then Kieran Frost had walked in. I'd seen him before, of course. Everyone had. The 32-year-old CEO who'd built a tech empire from nothing, whose face graced magazine covers with headlines like The Ice King of Silicon Valley and The Alpha Who Never Smiles. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sharp features and eyes the color of winter storms. Handsome in a way that felt dangerous, like admiring a blade. Mr. Winters, he'd said, his voice deep and controlled. I understand your company is in financial difficulty. I'd nodded, not trusting my voice. I have a proposal. He'd slid a folder across the desk. I have a medical condition, severe rut dysregulation. Without regular exposure to compatible Omega pheromones, my ruts can become life-threatening. I've tried scent therapy, synthetic pheromones, everything. Nothing works long-term. I'd stared at him, confused about where this was going. 3 months ago, we met at the pharmaceutical conference. Do you remember? I did. I'd been presenting my family company's new suppressor technology. He'd stood in the back of the room, and I'd felt his eyes on me the entire time. Your pheromones, he'd continued, his expression unreadable. are uniquely compatible with my biology. When you were presenting, I experienced the first rut stabilization I've had in years. He'd paused. I need your pheromones on a regular basis. In exchange, I'll invest in your company. Save it from bankruptcy. You want to buy my pheromones? I'd felt sick. I want to marry you. The room had spun. A contractual marriage, he'd clarified quickly. 2 years. You'll live in my penthouse, where I'll have regular exposure to your pheromones. In exchange, your family company receives a $10 million investment and access to Frost Industries' distribution network. At the end of 2 years, we divorce quietly. You'll receive a settlement of $5 million. Why marriage? I'd whispered. Legal protection. For both of us. A contract ensures clear boundaries and expectations. He'd looked at me with those cold eyes. I'm not offering romance, Mr. Winters. I'm offering a business arrangement that benefits us both. You save your family legacy. I save my life. That's all. I should have said no. Should have walked away and found another solution. But I'd thought of my father's face when I'd told him the company was failing. Thought of the employees who'd worked for us for decades. Thought of my mother's medical bills that we could no longer afford. Separate bedrooms, I'd said. Of course. No intimate relations. This is purely medical. And after 2 years, we never contact each other again. Agreed. I'd signed the contract that day. We'd married in a private courthouse ceremony a week later, with only his lawyer present. No family. No friends. No love. Just business. The sound of the front door opening pulled me from my memories. Kieran was home earlier than expected. I quickly splashed water on my face, trying to erase any evidence of my crying, my nausea, my complete emotional breakdown. When I emerged from the bathroom, he was standing in the kitchen, loosening his tie. He looked tired. He always looked tired lately, with shadows under his eyes and tension in his jaw. But he was still beautiful in that sharp, untouchable way. Like a sculpture you could admire but never hold. You're home early, I said, keeping my voice neutral. The meeting ended sooner than expected. He glanced at me, and I saw something flicker in his expression. Concern? No. Probably just annoyance that I looked unwell. Are you feeling all right? You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. I was getting good at lying. Just tired. He nodded, accepting this without question, and opened the refrigerator. I watched him pull out ingredients, vegetables, chicken, pasta. He started cooking, his movements efficient and practiced. This was new. For the first year of our marriage, Kieran had barely been home. He'd worked 16-hour days, traveled constantly, and when he was here, he'd stayed in his room. But over the past 6 months, something had shifted. He'd started coming home for dinner. Started cooking for both of us, even though I'd never asked. Started asking about my day in that stiff, awkward way of his. I'd let myself hope, God help me. Let myself imagine that maybe he was starting to see me as more than a pheromone dispenser. Then I'd found the divorce papers. Ash! I realized he'd been talking to me. Sorry, what? I asked if he wanted wine with dinner. He was watching me with those storm cloud eyes, and I felt pinned in place. No wine, I said quickly. Too quickly. I mean, I'm not in the mood. His eyebrows rose slightly. I never turned down wine. It was one of the few pleasures I allowed myself in this sterile arrangement. Are you sure you're all right? I'm fine, Kieran. Just, it's been a long day. He studied me for another moment, then turned back to cooking. I have a business trip next week. Tokyo. For days. Okay. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Will you be all right here alone? Would I? I'd be gone before he got back. I'd already received a job offer from a pharmaceutical company in Seattle. Across the country, far enough that I'd never accidentally run into him. I'd planned to leave next week, while he was traveling. Pack my few belongings, leave a note, and disappear from his life as cleanly as I'd entered it. I'd take our baby with me. Our secret. He'd never have to know that our one night of passion had consequences. He could divorce his memory of me and move on with his perfectly controlled life. I'll be fine, I whispered. We ate dinner in silence, the way we'd eaten hundreds of dinners before. But this time, every bite tasted like goodbye. After dinner, Kieran retreated to his study. I could hear him on the phone, his voice low and professional. Discussing business. Always business. I went to my room, the guest room that had been mine for 2 years, and pulled out my suitcase. Started folding clothes with shaking hands. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. A soft knock on my door made me freeze. Ash, can I come in? I shoved the suitcase under the bed and wiped my eyes. Yes. Kieran opened the door, and I saw he was holding something. My favorite tea, the expensive chamomile blend I'd mentioned liking once 6 months ago. He'd remembered. You seem stressed, he said, offering the steaming mug. This might help. I took it with trembling hands, and our fingers brushed. His touch sent electricity through me, the way it always did. Biology and something more, something I couldn't name. Thank you, I managed. He lingered in the doorway, looking like he wanted to say something. The silence stretched between us, heavy with words we'd never spoken. Finally, he said, Good night, Ash. Good night, Kieran. He closed the door softly behind him. I set the tea down untouched and pulled out my phone. Found the number for the Seattle company and typed a message. I accept your offer. I can start in 2 weeks. Then I placed my hand over my stomach, where our child was growing. I'm sorry, I whispered to the baby who couldn't hear me yet. I'm sorry your father will never know you. But I can't stay with someone who sees me as a transaction. You deserve better. We both do. Through the wall, I heard Kieran moving around in his study. Heard him on the phone again. Yes, have the divorce papers ready by the end of the month. Make it clean. No complications. No complications. Is that what I was? What our baby would be? I pressed my face into my pillow to muffle my sobs, letting 2 years of loneliness and love and heartbreak finally pour out of me. In 1 month, I'd be free. In 1 month, Kieran would get exactly what he'd always wanted. A life with no complications, no messy emotions, no Omega husband he'd never chosen. In 1 month, this would all be over. I just had to survive until then. I booked my flight to Seattle for next Tuesday. Kieran would be in Tokyo. By the time he returned on Friday, I'd be gone. He'd find a note on the kitchen counter, something brief and professional, matching the tone of our entire marriage. Thank you for everything. I've decided to leave early. Please have your lawyer send the final divorce papers to my attorney. Ash. Clean. Simple. No complications. I'd spent the last 3 days meticulously planning my escape. That's what it felt like, an escape, not just a departure. I'd opened a new bank account in Seattle, forwarded my mail to a P.O. box, and shipped most of my belongings ahead in unmarked boxes. The movers would come Monday night while Kieran was at his company dinner, the one he attended every month without fail. Everything was falling into place. So why did I feel like I was dying? You're making the right choice, I whispered to myself, folding another sweater into my suitcase. My hands moved mechanically, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying every moment of the past 2 years like a movie I couldn't turn off. A crash from the living room made me jump. I rushed out to find Kieran standing amid shattered glass, his face pale. He'd dropped his whiskey tumbler, and amber liquid spread across the white marble floor like blood. But he wasn't looking at the mess. He was staring at the moving box I'd stupidly left by the door, the one labeled Kitchen Items, Seattle. What is this? His voice was dangerously quiet. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's nothing. Just some things I'm donating. Donating to Seattle? He moved toward the box with predatory grace, and I saw the exact moment he spotted the shipping label with my new address. You're leaving. It wasn't a question. Kieran. When? He turned to face me, and the expression on his face stole my breath. I'd never seen him look like this, raw, unguarded, almost devastated. When were you planning to tell me? Monday, I admitted. There was no point lying now. While you're in Tokyo. I thought it would be easier. Easier? His laugh was bitter. Easier for who, Ash? To just disappear? To not even give me the courtesy of a proper goodbye. What does it matter? The words burst out of me, sharp and wounded. You were going to divorce me anyway. I saw the papers, Kieran. Filed for the exact day our contract ends. At least I'm sparing us both the awkwardness of counting down the days like prisoners waiting for release. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. You found the papers. Yes. Hidden in your desk like something shameful. Which I guess I am, right? Your shameful secret marriage that you can't wait to erase. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You got what you needed from me. Your ruts are stable. The contract is almost over. Just let me leave with some dignity. Dignity. He stepped closer, and I could smell his pheromones. Usually so controlled, now crackling with emotion. Anger. Confusion. Something else I couldn't identify. You think sneaking away in the middle of the night gives you dignity? More than waiting around for you to hand me divorce papers like a termination notice. My voice cracked. I'm not a business asset, Kieran. I'm a person. And I can't keep living like this. Like what? Like I don't exist. The words ripped from somewhere deep inside me, a wound I'd been covering for 2 years finally exposed. Do you know what it's like? To live with someone who looks through you? Who only remembers you exist when they need something? Who treats you like furniture that happens to smell good? His jaw clenched. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's my birthday, Kieran? He opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence was answer enough. It was last month, I said softly. I spent it alone, eating takeout while you worked late. Again, I wiped my eyes angrily. You don't even know me. And that's fine, that was the deal. But I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending it doesn't hurt. Ash! A wave of dizziness hit me suddenly, violently. The room tilted sideways, and I grabbed the wall for support. My vision went spotty around the edges. Ash! Kieran's voice sounded far away. What's wrong? I'm fine, but I wasn't fine. My legs gave out, and the last thing I felt was strong arms catching me before everything went black. Beeping. Steady, rhythmic beeping. I opened my eyes to harsh fluorescent lights and the antiseptic smell of a hospital. And 4-line ran into my arm. Kieran sat in a chair beside the bed, his elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. Kieran, his head snapped up. In the clinical lighting, I could see how wrecked he looked. Hair disheveled, tie gone, shirt wrinkled. His eyes were red-rimmed. Thank God. He reached for my hand, then seemed to think better of it and pulled back. The doctor said you collapsed from stress and low blood sugar. You've been out for 2 hours. 2 hours. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. The baby is fine. Time stopped. Those 4 words hung in the air between us like a detonation. I watched his face, watched him watch me, and saw the exact moment he registered my expression. Shock, fear, guilt. You knew, he said slowly. You already knew you were pregnant. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. This wasn't how he was supposed to find out. He was never supposed to find out. How long? His voice was eerily calm, the kind of calm that preceded storms. How long have you known, Ash? 3 weeks, I whispered. 3 weeks. He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. You've known for 3 weeks that you're carrying my child, and you were just going to, what? Disappear? Raise my baby alone across the country without ever telling me. You didn't want this. The heart monitor beside me started beeping faster. You made it clear from the beginning, no complications. Just business. A baby is the ultimate complication, Kieran. So you decided for me? He turned, and I saw fury in his eyes, real, burning fury. You decided I wouldn't want my own child? That I didn't deserve to know. You were filing for divorce. That doesn't mean I wouldn't want to know about my baby. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of frustration I'd never seen from controlled, composed Kieran Frost. God, Ash, what were you thinking? You're high risk. Omega pregnancies from Alpha-Omega bonds are always high risk, especially first pregnancies. What if something had happened to you in Seattle? What if you'd collapsed and no one knew about the baby? I would have been fine. You collapsed in our living room. His voice rose, then he visibly forced himself to calm down. I'm sorry. I shouldn't yell. You need rest. The doctor said. He stopped abruptly. Said what? He looked away. That you need monitoring. The stress has put you at risk for complications. They want you on bed rest for at least a week. Perfect. Just perfect. A nurse entered, all professional smiles and efficient movements. She checked my vitals, adjusted my 4, and explained that I'd need to stay overnight for observation. Kieran listened intently, asking questions about diet and supplements and warning signs to watch for. He sounded like a concerned husband, like someone who cared. But I knew better. This was Kieran in business mode, gathering information, managing a situation, handling a complication. After the nurse left, silence filled the room like water, drowning us both. I'll cancel my Tokyo trip, Kieran said finally. You don't have to. Yes, I do. His tone left no room for argument. When you're discharged tomorrow, you'll come home. The doctor's orders are bed rest, which means you're not going anywhere until they clear you. Home. He said it like our penthouse was actually a home, not a beautiful prison. And then what? I asked tiredly. I stay until the contract ends? We pretend everything is normal while we count down to the divorce. He flinched. Actually flinched like I'd hurt him. We'll figure it out, he said, but his voice sounded hollow. Just please, Ash. For the baby. Stay until we figure it out. For the baby. Not for me. Never for me. I turned my face away so he wouldn't see the tears finally spilling down my cheeks. Fine, I whispered. For the baby. The next morning, Kieran brought me home like I was made of glass. But instead of taking me to the main penthouse, he led me to the guest house on his estate, a small, separate building I'd barely noticed before. It was connected to the main house by a covered walkway, but felt completely private. The doctor said you need quiet and rest, he explained, setting my overnight bag down. I thought you'd be more comfortable here. Away from everything. Away from him, he meant. The guest house was beautiful in an understated way. Cream walls, comfortable furniture, large windows overlooking the garden. A bedroom, bathroom, small kitchen, and living area. Everything I needed to be separate from Kieran while still technically being in his care. I'll have groceries delivered, he continued, not meeting my eyes. And I've arranged for a private nurse to check on you daily. If you need anything at all, just call. I'll hear my phone even in meetings. Thank you, I said mechanically. He lingered in the doorway, looking like he wanted to say something more. But whatever it was stayed trapped behind his carefully controlled expression. Rest, he finally said. I'll check on you this evening. Then he was gone, and I was alone. I sank onto the couch and stared at my phone. The Seattle job offer sat in my inbox, waiting for my response. I should decline it. The doctor had been clear. Travel was dangerous right now, and stress could harm the baby. But staying here, living in Kieran's guest house like a kept Omega, watching him count down the days until he could divorce me, that might kill me just as surely. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Milo. How are you feeling? Do you need me to come over? I'd called him from the hospital, told him everything. He'd offered to drive up immediately, but I'd convinced him to wait. I'm okay, I typed. Just tired. And confused. And pregnant with my soon-to-be ex-husband's baby. His response was immediate. He's an idiot if he lets you go. He doesn't want me, Milo. He just wants to manage the situation. Then make him want you. Fight for your marriage. I laughed bitterly at my phone. Fight for a marriage that had never been real? For a man who'd only married me for my pheromones? He married me for my scent, I texted back. Nothing more. Maybe. Or maybe he married you for your scent and fell in love along the way without realizing it. Alphas can be stupid about emotions. This isn't a romance novel. This is real life, where I'm carrying the baby of a man who's already drafted divorce papers. I set my phone down before Milo could respond with more optimistic nonsense. He meant well, but he didn't understand. Couldn't understand what it was like to love someone who saw you as a transaction. Through the window, I could see the main house. Kieran's silhouette moved past a window, his study probably. Already back to work, managing his empire, while I sat here managing his complication. I placed my hand over my stomach, where our baby was growing. Just you and me, I whispered. We don't need him. We'll be fine on our own. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. Because I wanted more than fine. I wanted the impossible. I wanted Kieran to love me the way I loved him. And that was the one thing no contract could ever provide. 3 days in the guest house felt like 3 years. Kieran came by twice a day, morning and evening, like clockwork. He'd bring food he'd cooked himself, ask about my symptoms, check that the nurse had visited. But he never stayed longer than 15 minutes. Never sat down. Never looked me in the eye for more than a few seconds. It was torture dressed up as care. On the 4th morning, I woke to find him in my kitchen, cooking breakfast. He must have let himself in quietly, not wanting to wake me. I watched from the bedroom doorway as he moved efficiently around the unfamiliar space, cracking eggs into a pan with the same precision he applied to everything. He'd rolled up his sleeves, and I could see the corded muscles of his forearms. Even doing something as domestic as cooking, he looked like he belonged on a magazine cover, untouchable and perfect. You don't have to do this, I said. He startled, spatula clattering against the pan. You're awake. I thought you'd sleep longer. Pregnancy insomnia. I moved into the kitchen, keeping distance between us. The baby likes to remind me she exists at 3 a.m. She. Something flickered across his face. Hope. No, probably just curiosity. I don't know yet. It's too early. But it feels like a she. I sat at the small dining table, suddenly exhausted despite just waking up. You really don't have to cook for me every day, Kieran. I can order delivery. The doctor said you need proper nutrition. He plated the eggs with toast and fresh fruit, arranging everything with unnecessary care. Delivery food has too much sodium. He set the plate in front of me, and our fingers brushed. That electric current again, the one that had been there from the first moment we'd met. Biology, I'd always told myself. Just compatible pheromones. But the way my heart ached when he pulled away, that wasn't biology. I need to talk to you about something, he said, sitting across from me. His expression was carefully neutral, which meant bad news. There's been a leak. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. What kind of leak? Photos of you entering an Omega clinic 3 weeks ago. Someone recognized you and sold the story to a gossip blog. He pulled out his phone, showed me the article. The headline made my stomach drop. Frost Industries CEO's secret Omega. Pregnant and hiding? Oh God. The eggs turned to ash in my mouth. How did they? Marcus Chen. Kieran's voice went cold. My business rival. He's been trying to find leverage against me for years. I should have been more careful, should have protected you better. This isn't your fault. Though it felt like my world was crumbling. Our secret marriage, the one thing we'd managed to keep private, was about to become public knowledge. What do we do? I'm holding a press conference this afternoon. He said it like he was discussing quarterly earnings, not our entire life exploding. I'll confirm the marriage, announce the pregnancy, and make it clear that anyone who harasses you will face legal action. You're going to tell everyone? Panic clawed up my throat. Kieran, you hate publicity. You've kept your private life private for years. This is different. His jaw tightened. They're coming after you. After our baby. I won't allow it. Our baby. He kept saying that, and every time felt like a knife twisting in my chest. There's something else, he continued. For your safety, you'll need to move back into the main house. The guest house isn't secure enough, not with paparazzi likely to camp outside the gates. Back into the main house. Back into his space, where I'd spent 2 years trying to make myself invisible. I can stay with Milo, I suggested desperately. No. The word was final. You're high risk. You need to be where I can. He stopped himself. Where you can be monitored properly. Where he could monitor me, he meant. Make sure his complications stayed managed. Fine. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. When? Today. I'll have your things moved while I'm at the press conference. He stood, checking his watch. I need to go prepare. Will you be all right for a few hours? Would I? I was about to be outed to the world as the secret Omega wife of Kieran Frost, pregnant with his child while he filed for divorce. But sure, I'd be fine. I'll manage, I said. He hesitated, looking like he wanted to say something more. Then he just nodded and left. I sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the breakfast he'd made with such care, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong so fast. I watched the press conference from the guest house, my phone streaming the live video. Kieran stood at a podium, surrounded by reporters and camera flashes. He looked every inch the powerful CEO, dark suit perfectly tailored, expression composed, posture radiating authority. But I'd learned to read the tiny tells. The slight tension in his jaw, the way his fingers gripped the podium just a fraction too tight. He was nervous. I've called this conference to address recent speculation, he began, his voice carrying across the crowded room. The rumors you've seen are partially true. I am married. I have been for 2 years. The room erupted in shouted questions. He held up a hand for silence. My husband's name is Ash Winters. We married privately away from media attention because we valued our privacy. He paused, and something in his expression shifted, became almost soft. Ash is not my contract spouse or business arrangement, despite what some outlets have claimed. He is my husband, my partner, and he is carrying our child. My breath caught. The way he said it, my husband, my partner, sounded almost real. Over the past 2 years, I have failed him in ways I deeply regret. His voice cracked slightly, so subtle most people probably missed it. But I heard it. I allowed work to consume me. I kept him at a distance when I should have cherished him. I treated our marriage like another business deal when it should have been my greatest treasure. What was he doing? This wasn't just damage control. This was... Ash is the most extraordinary person I've ever known, Kieran continued, and now I could see emotion breaking through his careful control. He's brilliant, compassionate, and stronger than anyone gives him credit for. He saved my life, literally, and asked for nothing in return. And I've spent 2 years being too blind and too cowardly to tell him what he means to me. Tears streamed down my face. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to believe him. So if anyone wants to come after my family, And yes, Ash is my family. They'll have to go through me first. His eyes seemed to look directly into the camera, directly at me. I will protect him and our child with everything I have. I will spend the rest of my life proving that he didn't make a mistake by choosing me, even if I made every mistake with him. The reporters exploded with questions, but I couldn't hear them over the pounding of my heart. My phone rang. "Kieran, did you watch?" he asked without preamble. "Yes." My voice was barely a whisper. "I meant every word, Ash. Every single word." "Why?" The question tore out of me. "Why now? Why say all that when you were planning to divorce me in a few weeks?" Silence stretched between us. Then, "Can I come see you? Please. I need to explain, and I can't do it over the phone. I thought you had more press. I canceled everything. You're more important." Those 4 words shattered something in my chest. "Okay," I whispered. "Come over." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his suit but with his tie loosened and top button undone. He looked exhausted and vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. "I need to show you something," he said, pulling out his phone. "I've been investigating, trying to understand." He opened a folder of files, security footage, medical records, bank statements. "This is from last year, when I was hospitalized with rut complications. Do you remember?" I nodded. He'd nearly died. The hospital had called me in the middle of the night. I was unconscious for 3 days. But I didn't know until last week that you donated blood. He showed me the medical records. Omega blood donations are dangerous, Ash. Especially for unmated Omegas donating to Alphas. You could have died. You needed blood, I said simply. They said you might not make it without a transfusion from a compatible Omega. I was the only match. You never told me. His voice was rough with emotion. It wasn't about recognition. You needed help. He swiped to another file. Your family company. It recovered a year ago. The investment I made paid off faster than projected. You've been financially stable for 12 months. I looked away, caught. You could have left any time, he continued. The contract only required you to stay until the financial obligations were met. But you stayed. Why? Because I loved him. Because leaving would have killed me. Because some pathetic part of me kept hoping he'd wake up one day and see me. I had nowhere else to go, I lied. That's not true. He moved closer. I found your journal, Ash. I'm sorry, it was in the main house, and I thought it might help me understand why you were leaving. Horror washed over me. My journal. The one where I'd poured out every feeling, every desperate hope, every moment of heartbreak. You read my private. I know. I'm sorry. I had no right. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of genuine distress. But I'm glad I did, because it helped me realize what an absolute idiot I've been. He pulled up something on his phone. A photo of a journal page. My handwriting from 6 months ago. Today Kieran smiled at me. Really smiled, not that polite business smile. And I knew I was doomed to love a man who'd never love me back. But I can't stop. I can't stop hoping that maybe someday, he'll see me as more than a contract. I did see you, he said quietly. I've been seeing you for months. But I was terrified. Of what? Of this. He gestured between us. Of wanting something real. My parents had an arranged marriage, Ash. They destroyed each other. I watched my father try to control my mother, watched her grow to hate him, watched them both become hollow shells using each other as weapons. His voice broke. I swore I'd never let emotions control me. Never let myself want something I could lose. So you pushed me away. I tried to. He laughed bitterly. But you got under my skin anyway. Your smile when you thought I wasn't looking. The way you left notes in my briefcase reminding me to eat. How you'd wait up even when I told you not to, just to make sure I got home safe. He stepped closer. I started coming home earlier just to see you. Started cooking because I wanted to take care of you. Started finding excuses to be near you because your presence made everything better. My heart hammered. Then why the divorce papers? Because I'm a coward. The admission seemed to cost him. I thought if I filed them, if I had an end date, I could protect myself. Could pretend this was still just business. But the closer the date got, the more I panicked. The more I realized I didn't want to let you go. You have a terrible way of showing it. I know. He reached for my hand, and this time I let him take it. His thumb brushed across my knuckles. I fell in love with you, Ash. Somewhere between your terrible taste in movies and the way you hum while you cook and how you always put my needs before yours. I fell completely, terrifyingly in love. And I was too scared to admit it, even to myself. I wanted to believe him so badly it hurt. But fear held me back. How do I know you're not just saying this because of the baby? I whispered. How do I know you really want me, and not just the Omega carrying your child? He cupped my face gently, forcing me to meet his eyes. Because I've been in love with you since before that night. Why do you think I lost control? My rut had never broken through suppressants before. But being near you, wanting you, needing you, it overwhelmed every defense I had. Kieran, I married you for your scent, he said softly. But I fell in love with your heart, your strength, your everything. And yes, I fell in love too late to save us from all this pain. But please, Ash, let me prove it's not too late to save us. A car door slammed outside. Voices, multiple voices. Kieran's expression darkened. He moved to the window and cursed. Paparazzi. They found the guest house. Before I could respond, my phone started buzzing with notifications. News alerts, social media mentions, messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. The story was everywhere. We need to get you to the main house now, Kieran said, his protective alpha instincts kicking in. The security there is. A knock at the door interrupted him. No, not a knock, pounding. Aggressive. Mr. Winters. Just a few questions. Ash, is it true you trapped Kieran Frost with a pregnancy? How much is he paying you to stay quiet? The shouts came rapid fire, vicious. Through the window, I could see. Cameras pressed against the glass, flashes going off like lightning. I stumbled backward, my breath coming in short gasps. Too much. This was all too much. Ash! Kieran caught me as my knees buckled. Stay with me. Look at me, just at me. But I couldn't breathe. The room spun, and darkness crept in at the edges of my vision. Call 911. Kieran shouted into his phone. My husband is having a medical emergency, and there are reporters blocking access. The last thing I heard before passing out was Kieran's voice, desperate and broken. Please, Ash. Please don't leave me. I love you. I love you. Please stay. Then darkness took me under. I woke to the sound of machines beeping and Kieran's voice, low and desperate. I don't care what it costs. I want security at every entrance, cameras on every floor, and anyone who even looks at my husband wrong gets escorted out. Do you understand? My eyes fluttered open. Hospital room. Again. But this time, Kieran wasn't sitting composed in a chair. He was standing at the window, phone pressed to his ear, his free hand braced against the glass like he was holding himself upright. Kieran. My voice came out hoarse. He spun around, phone clattering to the floor. In 3 strides he was at my bedside, his hands hovering over me like he was afraid to touch, afraid I'd break. Ash! Thank God. His voice cracked. You've been out for 6 hours. The doctor said you had a severe panic attack, and your blood pressure spiked dangerously. They had to sedate you. 6 hours. I looked down at my stomach instinctively, my hand moving to the small swell that was barely there. The baby, I whispered, is fine. Strong heartbeat. The doctor said she's a fighter. He said she, without hesitation this time, like he'd already accepted that our baby was a girl, even though we couldn't know yet. Relief crashed over me so intensely I started crying. Just silent tears streaming down my face while Kieran watched helplessly. I'm so sorry, he said, and I realized he was crying too. This composed, controlled man had tears running down his face. This is my fault. I should have protected you better. Should have anticipated the media frenzy. Should have. Stop. I reached for his hand, and he grabbed mine like a lifeline. You couldn't have known they'd find the guest house so fast. I should have known. I know how vicious they can be. His thumb traced circles on my palm, a gesture so tender it made my heart ache. I've arranged for private security. They're setting up at the main house now. And I've filed restraining orders against the photographers who broke onto the property. You'll be safe, I promise. You can't promise that. Then I'll spend every second trying. The intensity in his eyes stole my breath. I meant what I said at the press conference, Ash. All of it. I love you. I'm in love with you. And I will protect you and our daughter with everything I have. Our daughter. He kept saying it, and every time felt like a key turning in a lock around my heart. I want to believe you, I whispered. But I'm scared. What if this is just the crisis talking? What if once everything calms down, you realize you don't actually want this? Want us? He pulled something from his pocket. An envelope, worn at the edges like it had been handled many times. This is the divorce papers, he said. The ones you found in my desk. My stomach dropped. I want you to read them. Really read them. He placed the envelope in my hands. With trembling fingers, I opened it. Scanned the legal language until I found the section that made my breath stop. Reason for dissolution, irreconcilable differences. But beneath it, in Kieran's handwriting, were notes. Scribbled words that had been crossed out and rewritten multiple times. Reason, because I'm too much of a coward to tell him I love him. Reason, because I'm terrified of losing him, so I'm pushing him away first. Reason, because I don't deserve him and staying is selfish. The notations went on, each one more desperate than the last. At the bottom, dated just 1 week ago. I can't do this. I can't let him go. I don't care what the contract says. I'll find a way to make him stay. To make him love me back. Even if it takes the rest of my life. I never filed them, Kieran said quietly. I drafted them because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. What the contract required. But every time I tried to sign, I couldn't. Because the thought of you leaving destroyed me. I looked up at him through tears. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm an idiot who thought he could protect his heart by keeping you at a distance. He laughed bitterly. But you were already here. He pressed his hand to his chest. You've been here for months, maybe from the beginning. And I was too stupid and scared to admit it. The machines around me beeped steadily as my heart rate picked up. Not from panic this time, but from hope. Terrifying, fragile hope. I don't know how to trust this, I admitted. How to believe it's real. Then let me prove it. He stood, pulling out his phone. I'm going to call my lawyer right now. We're tearing up the original contract and drafting a new one. A real marriage certificate. No end date. No business terms. Just us choosing each other. Kieran. And I'm putting everything in motion to make you a full partner in Frost Industries. Not because you're my Omega or carrying my child, but because you're brilliant and I've been wasting your talents by keeping you hidden. He was talking faster now, like if he stopped he'd lose his nerve. We'll renew our vows properly this time. With your family and friends there. We'll announce you as my true partner, not just my husband. Will, when did you do all this? I asked, overwhelmed. While you were in the hospital. I couldn't just sit there, so He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly awkward. I wanted you to feel like this was your home too. Not just a place you were staying. I turned to him, this powerful Alpha CEO, who looked terrified that I might not like his interior decorating choices, and something in my chest gave way. Show me your room, I said. He blinked. What? Your bedroom. I've never been inside, not since that night. Show me. He led me upstairs, and I realized how nervous he was. This man who commanded boardrooms and made billion-dollar deals was nervous about showing me his bedroom. The room was exactly what I expected. Perfectly organized, minimal decoration, everything in its place. But on the nightstand was a photo I'd never seen before. Us, from our courthouse wedding day. We looked stiff and uncomfortable in the photo, standing far apart. But Kieran had been looking at me with an expression I'd missed at the time. Something soft and wondering and almost hopeful. I look at that every night, he admitted. And every morning. Reminding myself what an idiot I was for not kissing you that day. For not telling you that even though this started as business, I already knew you were going to change everything. I picked up the frame, studying it. I didn't know you kept this. I keep everything that has to do with you. He opened his closet, and I saw a box on the top shelf. He pulled it down, opened it carefully. Inside were things I'd thought were gone. Notes I'd written him, a ticket stub from a movie we'd accidentally ended up at together, a recipe card for the first meal I'd cooked in our apartment, even the pen I'd used to sign our marriage contract. You're a secret sentimental, I said, touched beyond words. Only about you. He set the box down. Everything else in my life is disposable. But not you. Never you. I set down the photo and stepped closer to him. Kieran Frost, are you trying to court me? Yes. No hesitation. I'm trying to court my own husband. Is it working? Instead of answering, I kissed him. It was soft and tentative at first. Our first real kiss since that night 6 weeks ago. But then his arms came around me, careful of my condition but unmistakably possessive, and the kiss deepened. It tasted like hope and second chances, and all the words we'd been too scared to say. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. I love you, I whispered against his lips. I've loved you for so long it feels like always. I love you too. He rested his forehead against mine. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I'm sorry for every day I wasted pretending I didn't. Then don't waste any more. I took his hand and placed it on my stomach, where our daughter was growing. We don't have time for games anymore. We have a family to build. His hand spread across my stomach, possessive and reverent. A family, he repeated. God, Ash. You're giving me everything I never knew I wanted. We're giving it to each other. The next 2 weeks were a revelation. Kieran canceled all non-essential meetings and worked from home. He'd set up his laptop at the kitchen counter while I rested on the couch, and we'd talk throughout the day about everything and nothing. I learned that he liked terrible action movies, that he stress-baked at 2 a.m., that he had a ridiculous phobia of birds. He learned that I could solve complex chemical equations in my head, that I sang off-key in the shower, that I cried at commercials featuring elderly couples. We cooked together, Kieran hovering protectively whenever I stood for too long. We watched movies curled up on the couch, his hand always finding its way to my stomach, like he needed to touch our daughter to believe she was real. We talked late into the night about everything we'd been too scared to share before, our fears, our dreams, our hopes for the future. And slowly, the walls between us crumbled completely. One evening, I found him in the nursery, a room I hadn't even known he'd been preparing. It was painted a soft lavender, with white furniture and a mobile of stars hanging over the crib. I wasn't sure about colors, he said, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. I thought we could decide together. But I wanted to start. I wanted to show you I'm serious about this. About being a father. I moved to stand beside him, looking at the empty crib that would soon hold our daughter. You're going to be a great father. How do you know? I had a terrible example. Because you're already proving it. I leaned against him. You're here. You're trying. You're letting yourself be vulnerable and scared and imperfect. That's what good parents do. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. We're really doing this. Building a family. A real family. Yeah, I said softly. We really are. His phone buzzed. A reminder about his press conference next week, the one where he'd formally introduce me as his true partner in both marriage and business. Are you ready for that? He asked. The public scrutiny won't stop. It might get worse before it gets better. I know. And I did. But I also knew something else now. But I have you. We have each other. We can face anything as long as we're together. Together, he repeated, that word he'd grown to love. Then quieter. I fell in love too late, didn't I? I caused you so much pain that could have been avoided if I'd just been brave enough to admit how I felt. I turned in his arms to face him. You fell in love too late, I agreed. But just in time. Just in time. To save us. I placed my hand over his heart. To build something real. To become the family we were always meant to be. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And I knew with absolute certainty that we were going to be okay. 6 months later. The nursery was no longer empty. I stood in the doorway, watching Kieran attempt to change our daughter's diaper. He was talking to her in a gentle voice, explaining each step like she was a tiny business partner he was training. Now, sweetheart, this part requires precision and speed. Your papa says I'm getting better at this, but between you and me, I think he's being generous. Our daughter, Emma, named after Kieran's grandmother, made a gurgling sound that might have been agreement or complaint. She had Kieran's striking eyes and my dark hair, and she had both of us completely wrapped around her tiny fingers. You're doing great, I said from the doorway. Kieran looked up, and his face lit up with the smile I'd fallen in love with. The real one, unguarded and warm. Papa, thank God. She's conspiring against me. I'm sure of it. I crossed to them, looking down at our daughter who was now staring at Kieran with intense focus. She just likes keeping you on your toes. She gets that from you. He finished the diaper change triumphantly and picked Emma up, cradling her against his chest. She immediately grabbed a fistful of his shirt and made a contented sound. How was your meeting? I asked. I'd started working at Frost Industries 3 months ago, heading up a new pharmaceutical development division. Today had been my first major presentation to the board. You were brilliant, Kieran said. The board was incredibly impressed, though I had to pretend to be professionally interested instead of completely besotted with how smart my husband is. Professionally interested? I raised an eyebrow. Is that why you kept smiling at me like that? I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm very professional. He was grinning now, that boyish expression I'd discovered he had when he let his guard down completely. Emma started fussing, and we both moved into our practiced routine. Kieran grabbed her bottle from the warmer while I settled into the rocking chair. He handed me Emma and the bottle, then perched on the arm of the chair, his hand resting on my shoulder. This was our evening ritual. Feeding Emma together, talking about our days, existing in this bubble of domestic happiness that still felt surreal sometimes. She said her first word today, Kieran said suddenly. I looked up at him. What? When? Why didn't you tell me immediately? It was during your meeting. I didn't want to interrupt. His eyes were dancing with amusement. Want to guess what it was? Dada. Nope. He was definitely holding back laughter now. What then? Papa. He pointed at me. She was looking right at you in a photo, and she said Papa clear as day. Joy burst through me so intensely I felt tears prick my eyes. Really? Really? I have video evidence. He pulled out his phone, showed me the clip. Sure enough, our 6-month-old daughter was staring at a photo of me and babbling Papa, Papa, Papa. I win, I said, unable to stop smiling. Her first word was for me. It's completely unfair, Kieran said, but he was smiling too. I'm the one who gets up with her at 3 a.m. I'm the one who sings her terrible lullabies. I'm the one who she loves just as much, I interrupted. She just knows I need the extra validation. He laughed and pressed a kiss to my temple. Our daughter is clearly brilliant and perceptive. Emma finished her bottle and let out a satisfied burp that made us both laugh. Kieran took her from me and started walking her around the nursery, bouncing gently and humming off-key. She gazed up at him with absolute adoration. I watched my husband, my real husband now, not my contract spouse, sing to our daughter in a room he'd prepared with such love and hope. The penthouse that had once felt like a beautiful prison now felt like home. The man who'd once looked at me like a business arrangement now looked at me like I was his entire world. We'd come so far from those early days of careful distance and hidden feelings. The journey had been painful, complicated, full of misunderstandings and mistakes. But somehow we'd found our way to this, to love, to family, to happiness. What are you thinking about? Kieran asked, catching me watching him. Just us. How far we've come. He moved closer, Emma cradled in one arm while his other hand found mine. Do you regret any of it? The contract, the complications, all the pain I put you through. I squeezed his hand. Not even a little. Because it led us here. I married you for your scent, he said softly, echoing the words that had started everything. And fell in love too late, I continued. But just in time. He completed our new refrain, the one we'd created together. Then he leaned down to kiss me, careful not to jostle Emma. I love you, Ash Winters Frost. I love you too, Kieran. Emma made a sound between us, like she was demanding attention. We both laughed, and Kieran passed her to me. She's going to be so spoiled, he said, watching us with an expression of complete contentment. By both her fathers, I agreed. She deserves it. She deserves everything. He sat beside us on the floor, his back against the wall. You both do. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. I looked around the nursery, at the stars hanging above us, at the photos of our little family on the walls, at the man beside me who'd learned to open his heart. Emma grabbed my finger with her tiny hand, and Kieran's hand rested on my knee. This was what I'd dreamed of during those lonely nights in the guest room. This sense of belonging, of being chosen, of building something real and lasting with the person I loved. Hey, Kieran. Yeah. Thank you. For what? For fighting for us. For being brave enough to love me even when it scared you. He pulled me closer, Emma nestled between us. Thank you for not giving up on me. For seeing something worth loving even when I was doing everything to push you away. Emma yawned, her eyes drooping. We watched her fall asleep, her breathing evening out into the peaceful rhythm that meant she'd be down for a few hours. We should probably put her in the crib, Kieran whispered. In a minute, I whispered back. I just want to stay like this a little longer. So we did. We sat on the nursery floor, holding our daughter, holding each other, living in the beautiful reality we'd built from a business contract and forbidden feelings. Outside, the city lights twinkled like the stars on Emma's mobile. Inside, our little family existed in perfect contentment. I'd married Kieran Frost for a business deal. He'd married me for my scent. We'd spent 2 years circling each other, hiding our feelings, convinced that love was impossible. We'd been wrong. Love hadn't been impossible. It had just been waiting for us to be brave enough to reach for it, to fight for it, to believe it could be real. And now, holding my husband and daughter in the soft glow of the nursery lamp, I knew with absolute certainty. He'd married me for my scent and fallen in love too late. But we'd both fallen in love just in time to build something beautiful. Just in time to become a family. Just in time for forever. 1 year later, I found the framed journal page in Emma's nursery, hanging beside her crib. It was the one Kieran had shown me that day. My words about loving a man who'd never love me back. But he'd added something new beside it, in a matching frame. His own journal entry, dated from the same day I'd written mine. Today Ash smiled at me, and I felt something break open in my chest. Something terrifying and wonderful and completely unstoppable. I'm falling in love with my contract husband. I'm in love with everything about him, his kindness, his strength, the way he hums while he cooks. And I'm terrified because I don't know how to love someone without losing myself. But maybe with him, losing myself would be the best thing that ever happened to me. Below both frames, in fresh calligraphy, were the words we'd chosen together. He married me for my scent, then fell in love too late. But our love was always right on time, just waiting for us to be brave enough to claim it. I felt arms wrap around me from behind. Kieran's chin rested on my shoulder. "Do you like it?" he asked. "I love it." I turned in his arms. "Though I still think you fell in love too late. And I still maintain it was just in time." He grinned. "Guess we'll have to spend the rest of our lives arguing about it." "The rest of our lives," I repeated, loving the sound of it. "I can live with that." He kissed me, soft and sweet, while our daughter slept peacefully and the promise of forever stretched out before us. We'd found each other in the most unexpected way. We'd almost lost each other through fear and pride. But in the end, love had been patient enough to wait for us. And that made it all the more precious.